Before Spain came, the most powerful people in the Philippines weren't kings, they were women. They healed the sick, guided their communities, and spoke to the gods. They were called Babaylan, priestesses, healers, and spiritual leaders. But when colonization began, these women became the first targets in the battle for the Filipino soul. Long before the first Spanish ship appeared on the horizon, the Philippines already had a complex and organized society. There were rulers and warriors, farmers and traders, but above them all, even above the chiefs, stood a figure that everyone respected, the Babaylan. The Babaylan was more than a healer or a priest. She was the heart of the village, the keeper of wisdom, the bridge between the seen and unseen worlds, the voice of the ancestors. And in many communities, her word carried more weight than any man's. The Babaylan was central to pre-colonial Filipino life. She acted as healer, using herbs, rituals, and prayers to cure illness, spiritual guide, communicating with gods and ancestral spirits, counselor, mediating disputes, offering wisdom, and interpreting dreams. Leader, organizing rituals for harvest, childbirth, and warfare. She wasn't chosen randomly. A Babaylan often inherited her role through family lineage, or received a calling, assigned from spirits through visions or illness. Once initiated, she trained for years, memorizing chants, learning sacred dances, and mastering medicinal plants. In many early Filipino societies, women held significant power. They could own property, inherit land, and lead rituals. Gender was fluid in spirituality. What mattered was one's connection to the divine. That's why not all Babaylan were female. Some were men who took on feminine roles, called asog or bayagan. In pre-colonial culture, this wasn't considered strange or shameful. It was sacred. The balance of male and female energy was believed to bring spiritual harmony. Spanish missionaries, however, saw this as immoral and unnatural. When Spanish colonizers arrived in the 1500s, they quickly realized something to control the islands. They had to control belief. They encountered Babaylans, leading communities with confidence, surrounded by followers who obeyed them more than local chiefs. These women performed ceremonies filled with chanting, fire, and dance, rituals the Spaniards described as demonic. The missionaries were threatened by their influence. The Babaylan could rally people spiritually and politically, something no colonial system could allow, and so began one of the earliest cultural wars in Philippine history, Spain's campaign to erase the Babaylan. The Spanish records are full of accounts of missionaries converting witches. That was their term for Babaylans. Many were publicly humiliated or executed. Their sacred tools, drums, jars, and statues, were burned. Their temples, called dambana, were replaced with churches. Yet, resistance was fierce. In some areas, Babaylans led rebellions, using both prayer and strategy. One famous example was Babaylan Tapar, a man who led a spiritual uprising in the Visayas in the 1660s. He preached equality and mixed Catholic imagery with native spirituality. His movement was crushed, but his legacy endured. Even centuries later, Babaylanic resistance remained alive in secret ceremonies, preserved by women who refused to let their culture die. The Babaylan's most respected skill was healing. Long before modern medicine, she used herbs, oils, chants, and the power of belief to cure illness. Many of her methods have actually been proven effective by science today. For instance, lagundi leaves to ease coughs and asthma, sambong for kidney cleansing, changgubat for digestion. These plants, once dismissed as superstitious remedies, are now recognized by the Philippine Department of Health as official herbal medicines. The Babaylan's knowledge was practical, born from generations of observation and care. Not magic, but mastery. Every stage of life had a Babaylan's blessing. At birth, she protected the child from evil spirits. Before planting season, she led rituals to ask the gods for rain. In war, she blessed warriors before battle. At death, she guided the soul to the afterlife, ensuring safe passage to the spirit world. These rituals were community events, filled with song, dance, and offering. They reinforced unity and shared identity. When Spain outlawed them, it wasn't just religion they destroyed. It was the rhythm of Filipino life itself. The Babaylan's power wasn't quiet. During rituals, she would enter trance states, her voice shifting, her movements flowing in rhythm with drums. To the people, she was the channel of the divine. To the Spanish, she was possessed. These performances scared colonizers, not because they were evil, but because they revealed a kind of power the Spaniards couldn't understand, spiritual confidence, rooted in womanhood and culture. It was power without permission. Despite persecution, the Babaylan tradition never truly disappeared. It survived by adapting. In some regions, the Babaylan's role merged with the albulario, the folk healer, or hilot, the midwife, and masseuse. In others, it hid beneath Catholic rituals. Prayers to saints, layered over ancient invocations. Even now, during fiestas and processions, you'll find echoes of Babaylan energy rhythmic chanting, offerings of food and flowers, and dances that feel older than the saints they celebrate. The Spanish built churches on old sacred sites, but the land remembered. In the last few decades, scholars and cultural advocates have begun to reclaim the Babaylan's legacy. Writers like Lilia Quindoza Santiago and Grace Nono describe the Babaylan as both a spiritual and feminist figure, a symbol of resistance and balance. Anthropologists studying Cordillera and Visayan communities continue to document surviving rituals that trace directly back to Babaylan practices. This rediscovery isn't about replacing modern faith, it's about remembering that Filipinos had spiritual depth long before colonization. Today, the Babaylan has become a symbol of empowerment, especially for Filipino women. She represents wisdom, compassion, and leadership, the ability to nurture and command at the same time. In a society that often sidelines women's voices, the Babaylan reminds us that leadership is not new to Filipino women, it's ancient. Her power came not from wealth or armies, but from connection, to people, to land, to spirit. The story of the Babaylan is not a tale of defeat, it's a story of survival. Spain tried to silence them, but their songs still echo in folk healing, in mountain chants, in every grandmother's whispered prayer before a storm. They remind Filipinos that true power doesn't always wear a crown or hold a sword. Sometimes, it holds a bowl of herbs, a drum, and a song. The Babaylan ruled not by fear, but by faith. Faith in the strength of her people, her ancestors, and her land. And though centuries have passed, her spirit still stands tall. Edonding in fall verdi shrine, in do stands in tai, living, a living thread, connecting modern Filipinos to the spiritual heart of their ancestors.